Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TekXpresso, where we serve quick, insightful, and engaging conversations. I'm your host, Veer Varma, and today I'm joined by Dr. Treiblmaier, a full professor of international management at Model University, Vienna, whose work explores how cutting-edge technologies are reshaping businesses and society. His research spans around blockchain, economics, token economies, crypto governance, and IoT and supply chains. He's also the author of A Theory of Chaordic Economics, How Artificial Intelligence and Blockchain Transform Businesses, Economies, and Societies, which dives into the economic shift driven by decentralization and intelligent systems. In this episode, we discuss three main topics. One, what chaotic economic means and how it blends chaos and order in complex systems. Two, the transformative role of blockchain and AI in today's economic landscape. And three, how organizations can strategically prepare for a more decentralized, tech-driven future. It's a thought-provoking conversation that connects theory, real-world impact, where we might be headed next. Let's jump right in.
So, Dr. Treiblmaier, before we jump right into the specifics of how it affects blockchain and I wanted to start with the foundation of his discussions, Chaordic economics. The term isn't something that is something you hear every single day, but it has deep roots in how the modern economy is evolving. Can you start by explaining what Chaordic economics is? And I know it traces back to D Hawk, the founder of Visa, but what was the vision for this concept and how does it apply to today's digital world?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And you're right, the term chaotic is not something that's often used in common language, but I also did not invent it. I took the term, as you pointed out, from D. Hawk, the inventor of Visa. It's a mix between the words chaos and order, chaotic. So D. Hawk was talking about systems that include both components. He was the founder of Visa and he was ordered to create this worldwide payment network. He figured out it's impossible to do in a traditional way because companies compete with each other. And at the same time, for creating such a network, they also need to work together. And there's a kind of a funny story how I came up with the term or the theory chaotic economy, which I propose. And it would be great if you could post a link under your
Yes,
YouTube
absolutely.
channel so people can see my first blueprint paper. Uh, the reason why I came up with this is because Melanie Swan was asking me to write a chapter for her new book. Melanie Swan was in 2015 the first one who published a book on blockchain economics, blockchain, a blueprint for the new economy. And she has edited books, and I have edited books, and we are asking each other to bring in new ideas. And she was asking me if I could come up with a new theory for blockchain and AI. And at the same time, I was reading the book from D. Hawk. I have it here. I'm not sure if it's easy to see. I'm not sure if it's getting clear, but for those who cannot see it, it says One from Many, Visa and the Rise of Chaotic Organizations. That's a book from D. Hawk. It's an interesting read. I can highly recommend it. It's also very philosophical. And again, D. Hawk points out how he managed to create this world spanning organization Visa. And he said, in order to be successful, you need to both integrate chaos, competition, and order, which is cooperation. You need to create a new way of organizing things, a chaotic organization. And for my theory, I took the concept one level higher. I said, now we have these technologies like blockchain and AI, and they can create things that are kind of unpredictable, chaotic, but at the same time, they are also ordered, predictable. And so that's why I came up with the theory. And I also have to point out that I do not mean that chaos is something negative. It just means something unpredictable, but it can also be a system that creates chaos, that creates new ideas. And at the same time, deterministic doesn't mean it's always good. It could also be something that's kind of stuck. But if you blend those two, you can come up with new ideas, new systems, new organizations, and new economies.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Especially like how Chaordic economy combines both order and chaos to create something more resilient and adaptive structures is like really impressive. And it's something that you don't really hear today in today's times because like something like chaos, like when you hear chaotic, it just like immediately goes to a person's head and says it's negative and I don't want to be a part of this. But like This example reminds me of how decentralized networks like blockchain operates, and rather than relying on like one central authority, they distribute control, making them more flexible and secure. And now that we have a solid understanding on card economy, economics, let's talk about the two of the biggest technological forces that are shaping it, blockchain and AI, what you mentioned briefly about. We've already seen blockchain revolutionizing finance with decentralized currencies and smart contracts, and AI is disrupting industries across the board. From your perspective, why are these technologies so crucial for transforming the economy, and what fundamental shifts are they creating?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And my initial thought was very straightforward. I was thinking about this theory and I said to myself, oh, it's all very clear. We have artificial intelligence. I was specifically thinking about large language models. I know there are other tools, but large language models has been such a hype in the past 2 years. And I thought to myself, oh, they're creating something that's new, that's creative, so it's unpredictable. And then we have blockchain, which is very deterministic. On blockchain, you have redundant data structures and everything needs to be in order. All the databases need to be exactly identical. And so my first idea was AI creates chaos, unpredictability, and blockchain creates order. But then I did some research and I figured out I was basically wrong. It's way more complicated. And I also have to say that my theory is just the first try. And I would encourage others to take it up and to criticize me, to correct things where I was wrong and to add things to it. So my step number one was that I looked at existing theories that dealt with chaos and order in order to better understand what it's all about. I looked at information theory. In information theory, information entropy is disorder, but unplanned interactions can also create some kind of self-interaction. I looked at chaos theory, cybernetics. It's all in my paper. But for the theory of chaotic economics, the most important concepts are, let's say, transaction cost economics. For those of you who do not know the origin of this, in 1937, almost 100 years ago, um, Ronald Coase was asking himself, why do organizations exist in the first place? A very simple question, but nobody could answer that before. And he figured out it's because of the costs for conducting transactions and the legal networks and so on. So if something is easier or cheaper to do in-house, then you're going to insource it and the organization will become bigger. If it's cheaper to outsource it, you will do that and the organization becomes smaller. So transaction cost economics was basically the first starting point for these thoughts, and AI and blockchain, of course, they are going to change the cost structures. So this will have a huge impact on organizations, but also economies and also social structures. So other perspectives where Austrian economics, for example, in Austrian economics, they argue that you create chaos if you interfere with the economy. And you can create order if you leave it alone and if you enforce decentralized decision making. Keynesianism is more or less the opposite. They are saying you create chaos if you create inadequate responses, but you can create order in the economy by strategic interventions. So this was step number one. I looked at existing theories, how they perceive chaos and order. And then in the second step, I specifically looked at artificial intelligence. Again, I had a focus on large language models, but I think that holds in a more general sense. And I was looking at how AI can help to create chaos, but also how AI can help to create order. And I cannot discuss everything here, and those who are interested, please have a look at my paper and feel free to criticize me or add something to it. But I'll just give you a couple of ideas. For example, when it comes to information processing, AI can create misinformation, unpredictability, or things that are even wrong. We all know large language models, they can hallucinate. But at the same time, you can use the same technology. You can use artificial intelligence for some kind of filtering or fact checking. So you can create order, predictability by using AI. Or when it comes to information flow, AI can help to propagate misinformation. But at the same time, it can help to monitor and analyze in real time and so on and so on. So AI can be a driver for different kinds of chaos, unpredictability, and order. And the same thing is true for blockchain. Blockchain, for example, can create chaos by fragmenting information or increasing the complexity. There are kind of unregulated information flows. It's decentralized and nobody controls the structure of an open and permissionless network. But it creates also order by executing a transaction in a deterministic manner. You know exactly what goes in and what comes out. It can increase transparency and trust because you can track and trace information on blockchain. So I figured out that both technologies, AI and blockchain, at the same time can create some kind of order, and then they can create some kind of chaos. And what I did in my paper, I list those different options in a more structured manner. But that's how I see how these technologies create economies that are chaotic.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's interesting for me to see how AI optimizes like decision making, basically what you said, while also making like blockchain while also making sure blockchain ensures trust and transparency. And together they both are helping reshape how businesses like operate, from automating processes to redefining ownership and value exchange. And it also really feels like we're in the middle of like a digital revolution with AI and blockchain. Like we're getting started and there's something like really big that's supposed to come. Like we're getting started. We like know how it works. We know how we're supposed to use it, but we're just not there yet. And I feel like this could like be a massive game changer um once people start to understand how it's supposed to actually be used. So with such massive changes on the horizon, businesses need to adapt to stay ahead. Some industries are already integrating blockchain and AI, while others are still hesitant of its impact. For organizations, they want to prepare for this. For organizations that want to prepare for this shift, what key steps should they take, and how can they embrace cardio principles to remain competitive in this new economy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Weir. And I'm an academic. So people might think, oh, this is all academic stuff. I mentioned Ronald Coase, who was also an academic, and this is something that could be maybe in textbook for students, but how can we apply these ideas to the real world? But don't forget, the starting point was D Hawk, and D Hawk was a practitioner. And he came up with the, if you want to call it, theory of chaotic organizations based on his practical experience. I'm doing it the other way around. I suggest this theory of chaotic economics, and I suggest to use these ideas on how AI and blockchain can impact organizations, economic structures, and societies to use them some kind of a blueprint or a framework for analyzing what's going on. Back in the 1990s, there was the idea of business process re-engineering. You need to look at existing processes within your organization, and then you think about how you can make them better. I was once involved in a case study about blockchain implementation in Italy, and there was an interesting output from the case study because the CTO of that company told me initially we had blockchain and we had an existing process, and we used blockchain to make the process more efficient. The steps and the authorities in between, they stay the same, but we were using blockchain to make it a little bit faster. And at one point in time, we realized that's not the way how to do it. We need to rethink the whole process based on what we can do now. And I would say we need to do the same thing with organizational structures, economic structures, and societal structures. We have those new tools, and now we can rethink based on frameworks like the one that I propose on how we can structure new forms. To give an easy example, just an easy starting point, I work as a university professor. I'm also teaching students, and of course, they're using AI for their homeworks. And the moment I learned about large language models 2 years ago, I immediately restructured my examination process. In the past, I gave the student homeworks and I could then check with a plagiarism checker if they copied and pasted something from the internet. I could not do this anymore. So I gave them less points for the homeworks and I giving more points for the in-class exams. The process is basically the same, but I just restructured it. But on a higher level, for example, when it comes to organizing communities, you can rethink how this is being done. I was involved in a paper in an no, sorry, in an academic paper with colleagues from Africa who created a blockchain e-voting system. Now we have something that works without any governmental intervention. Communities can self-organize them. So if you would map this, it would look completely different because there's no more interference from the outside. And what I want to do in the next year, in the years to come, I want to create frameworks, to-do lists, blueprints that companies can use to check how they are doing the business right now and how AI or blockchain or other technologies can potentially impact what they're doing, and to create some awareness how they can restructure their businesses, and not only organizations. Private organizations. This could also be governmental organizations. So my goal would be to create some awareness and to help in the transition process. If you like, it's a new way of seeing strategic management within companies. So that's my plan for the next, let's say, 5 years.
Yeah, that's solid advice. So yeah, one of the biggest takeaways from this answer was that businesses shouldn't just wait for like change to happen. They need to like proactively think, to rethink their models and experiment with the current generation, experiment with the current technology that's going on, which is AI and blockchain. And especially experiment with decentralized systems and invest in AI-driven innovations. So the companies that embrace like these shifts early on will have like a huge advantage in the future economy. And it'll also help them just to understand how to do it in future change, because obviously this might not be the future technology like in like years to come, like 20, 30 years to come. So they'll know what to do in that time, so that this could be like a good practice, or this could be a good uh like a good like knowledge to like learn. So thank you very much, Dr. Treiblmaier. This has been an eye-opening discussion, and thank you for breaking down like a complex topic in Chaordic economics in like such an insightful and easier way to understand. As we move more towards like Chaordic economics, it's clear that blockchain and AI plays a huge role in it, and in shaping its future. And thank you once again for joining me today. I really appreciate your time and insights.
Mm. Thank you very much, Veer, for having me, and thank you for the great summary. You basically summarized everything in 2 sentences. There are two options for companies and other organizations now. Either they can wait and see what the future brings, and then it's up to others to decide what's going to happen to them, or they can be proactive and think about how to shape the future. And you made a great summary. So thank you very much for having me, and have a nice day.
Thank you. The link to Dr. Treiblmaier's paper will be in the description. You should definitely check it out.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.